All right, let's go ahead and get started. In the name of the Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit, one God, amen. I want to welcome all of you to this series of talks. This is the first one, as you know, here at St. Paul's, and then we're going to have two tomorrow at the center. We're going to start with a liturgy at the center from 8 to 10, followed by coffee and bagels and stuff, and then the first talk will be at 11, and then the next talk will be at 2, 3. So we have one talk at 11 and one talk at 3, so hopefully you guys can make those talks as well. And then the next talk after that is at St. Athanasius at 1 p.m. on Sunday. And then at 4 p.m. on Sunday, we have a meeting for the parents. You're free to attend if you'd like as well. I'd encourage you to tell parents you know, your parents, other people's parents, parents you like, parents you don't like, whatever, to come attend those meetings because I think they'll be very useful and really great for them. I just wanted to take a few minutes to start the talk off and welcome all of you. I wanted to introduce you to Abuna Andrew, who just came in. This is Abuna Andrew. we don't say Kismaros for Abuna Andrew, but. And I just wanted to introduce to you the ministry that's kind of spearheading all this. It's a group called Rediscover I Am. It's a new department in the diocese, the Department of Church and Culture that Amba Sarapion has started. And I think we have a video scheduled to show. I thought we would do. Miriam, do you know if we do or not? Okay. So we might show a video of him kind of discussing this new ministry. And I just wanted to kind of go through it very quickly with you just to kind of tell you what it is and what we're doing. So it's basically a ministry that focuses on Christian values and Christian principles in the Orthodox Church and living the life in Christ in orthodoxy in the Church. And our vision is ultimately the same vision that I think all the apostles have shared, which is from the very beginning of time, we know that the church is not Western or Eastern, American or Egyptian or Chinese or any other country. It's universal, right? It's Catholic. And so with that in mind, we would like to think about how to present orthodoxy in a way that's culturally appropriate and culturally appealing, and think about what is in the church that may be cultural and what is in the church that's orthodox and Christian. And so we want to focus on kind of disentangling some of those things. We have 6 ministries. If anyone's interested and like to help in any way, I'd love for you guys to help out. Oh, before I go any further, if everybody could open their Instagram and just go to Rediscover I Am and follow, right? I know you have Instagram. Don't tell me you don't have it. I deleted it. Just reopen it. You know you've got it. And just go to Rediscover I Am and just add it to, and just follow if you could. That would be great. So I'll go through the ministries very quickly. The first one is called I Am the Cornerstone. And the idea behind this ministry is matrimony and parenting, and that's what this program is part of. So we have lots of different initiatives. This one is #relationship goals. So it's kind of every stage to kids. So we start with dating, and then next we're going to go to premarital. So we have a premarital weekend that we're actually planning in November, if anyone knows anybody. And then we have premarital counseling that we also want to help and sponsor. And then from there we have parenting talks and we have marriage things that you guys aren't quite there yet, but we'll get there soon enough. The next one is I Am the Vine. And here we're going to talk about youth mentorship and think about discipleship as it relates to the Christian way of life. I Am the Truth is about holy sexuality. And in this ministry, we have really 2 initiatives. The I Am the Truth is going to focus on, kind of sexuality in any way, educational, things like pornography and some of the other things that kind of ail all of us in this society. We're gonna work on that. And then the other thing is something called His Beloved, which, if you don't know, is a group for Coptic youth who are LGBTQ or same-sex attracted. I highly recommend, if you know someone who's same-sex attracted, send them this website, hisbeloved.co. It's up there on the screen. It's a group, it's a support group that helps and just walks with people who are same-sex attracted, right? And dealing with the difficulty of being in that position and trying to be Christian and Orthodox in our society. I Am the Light is a ministry that's dedicated toward gaining back some of the youth who have left, some of the people who have left the church, which I'm sure many of you know many people who have left the church, whether it be a radical, I'm done with the church, or I'll come every other week, every third week, every fourth week, every fifth week. And this ministry is dedicated to trying to get some of those people back and going after some of the lost sheep. I Am the Good Shepherd is clergy and servant support. So the idea here is to help inform both the clergy and the servants on how to be culturally appropriate and to think about ways to reach kids in today's society, which isn't always easy because, as you know, everyone has the attention span of a cucumber or a gnat, whichever you prefer, and it's very difficult. And then finally, I Am the Word is our social media ministry. And the head of our social media ministry has just walked in. Mina just walked in, so he's going to do an amazing job for us. But the idea here is we're going to start with Instagram, but we have also TikTok and Twitter and everything else. And it's to push out messages that are all about how to be a true Christian, and to back up a little bit, to address some of the issues why youth leave. So one of the projects we did was to figure out why youth are leaving the church in their 20s and 30s and 40s, and to go backwards and to try to address those issues. And so that's what the social media is really going to focus on. It's not just going to be spiritual content that you can find on Instagram that's everywhere, but it's going to be more targeted and focused on that particular purpose. All right, so please, with no further ado, follow us on Instagram. That's the website. If you want to go to the website and check it out, I highly recommend you take a look. And with that, I want to introduce to you someone who I'm sure is going to be amazing tonight. She's a good friend, and I highly I admire her, I trust her, and I know that she's going to give us all some amazing advice, some really good advice, and some culturally appropriate advice on how to date and how to think about this particular topic, because it's something we all struggle with. It's very tough, and everyone seems to be breaking up. So this might help either break you up or help you not break up. So with no further ado, I'd like to introduce you Sarah. She's from SMSV in Toronto, so please give her a warm welcome. Thank you, Sarah. This is the Slido. So if everybody can take a picture of the Slido really quick. And then if you have a question during the talk, just upload it to the Slido. So everyone, do your Slido thing. Is it working with the? It's not working. You can just put the number. Okay, yeah. Scroll down. There you go. Okay, now, or scroll up. Yeah. Wait. Okay, everyone, take a picture now of the Slido. You can scroll up. I don't think she can. Yeah. No, yeah, I know, but she can't. It doesn't go. There's nothing on the bottom. Oh. This is a good suggestion, Andy. I'm happy to be it 4 times. Is everyone at a Slido? You're not at a Slido? Okay. All right.
Can you guys see my notes up there? Oh man, hold on, let me see if I can fix that. You still see them? Good, okay. Not that you can't see them, there's no secrets here, between friends. Okay, so thank you for having me. I see somebody that I brought with me from Canada taking a picture of the Slido. Just so you guys know, he is known for coming to these talks and sending in very juicy questions, okay? So please behave, okay? Okay. So thank you very much for having me. I'm really excited to be here. I've been to California before. I Love it. I also love SMSV. We're not going to have a battle between SMSV and St. Paul's, no problem. This is roughly what we're going to go through today. I'm going to try my best to keep it within an appropriate time frame. It does sometimes tend to get a little bit long, so just cut me off, stop me if we need to stop. A slight introduction. I don't really have that much to say, but I laughed really hard when somebody asked me, are you a relationship therapist? Absolutely not. I most certainly am not a relationship therapist. I work in healthcare, like not really that related. I serve at SMSV. I've been doing relationship goals in Toronto for about 8 or 9-ish years. Similar to your IM ministries, we have kind of a continuum of services. So we have dating, and then premarital, and then marriage, and then post-marriage, and then parenting. So we've kind of got the same sort of continuum. So that's sort of where I serve at SMSV. I don't really have any real qualifications here, but that's on Marchie for bringing me, like, unqualified. Sorry, friend. I also am going to play the cross-diocese immunity card. So if I say anything that's way out of left field, that's totally fine, because I'm going back to my diocese in a few days, so it doesn't really matter. I am doing schooling in Christian marriage and family counseling. Very unrelated, and I've been doing this way before I started the schooling, so I just threw it in there to give myself some credibility, but it's totally fine. Doesn't matter. Okay, this is my family, sorry. I am married, okay? Does that give me some credibility? I was gonna put up a really nice picture of like a photo shoot and everybody's smiling, but that's a lie, and everything is a lie. This is more reflective of what life actually looks like, particularly that picture on the bottom where we're fighting with the kids to try and get them to stand and smile. Doesn't always work. All right, so let's jump into it. So why are we doing this, okay? And the first time I pitched this to Abuna 9 years ago, he asked me that question. Why on earth do you want to do an entire series about dating? Is there enough to talk about dating? I'm going to argue yes, obviously, because I flew from Toronto to California. But dating is not intuitive. And I come from an environment, I don't know what here is like, where we were not allowed to talk about dating. You go to school, no dating. You go to high school, no dating. We call it university, you guys call it college. Whatever, you go to post-high school education, right around like your 2nd or 3rd year mark, all of a sudden the parents are like, why aren't you married yet? And nobody talks about anything in between. But dating is actually not intuitive. It's really hard, and there are a lot of things that we have to talk about to do it right. And when I was growing up, there was a lot of people doing it wrong. And my parents' generation, it's not extrapolatable information. And so 9 years ago, we talked about this as much for the people that are dating as well as for the people that are married. And we want to set people up for fulfilling and happy and God-serving marriages. So the reason we're doing this is to, set us up for the future, but also to support the people that are going through it now. And selfishly, Relationship Goals is probably my favorite service because it's got a 100% success rate. Either you break up, winner, divorce averted, everything's great, okay? Or you're happy, it's great, right? 100%. It's the only service that has a 100% success rate. So, before we get started into the actual dating, I'm not used to being like anchored. I normally like walk around and all that stuff. So let's work backwards, okay? And today we're gonna talk about common myths when it comes to dating. But let's work backwards. What is the purpose of dating? Right? We're all going to assume that everybody sitting in this room and everybody who's listening is looking for mature adult relationships. We're not dating just to date. We're dating to marry, okay? What is the purpose of marriage? Every time we talk about this in maybe demographics that are a little bit younger than yours, to be happy, to find somebody that makes me happy, to find somebody that makes me feel good about myself, nobody cares about that. Okay? The purpose of marriage is a path to salvation. The purpose of marriage is to teach you how to die to your own selfish desires so that you open up and leave room for Him to come and fill you. The purpose of marriage as a path to salvation is to teach you how to empty yourself to then be filled with Him, right? Everything that you do, your marriage, your service, your life, your parenting, is supposed to tell the truth about who He is, okay? So of course, person to person, I want you all to be very happy, okay? Very happy. But transparently, I don't actually care because marriage is a path to salvation. It is supposed to point to Him. So if you're dating, okay, to find somebody who's gonna make you feel good about yourself, I know it doesn't sound as romantic as you guys want it to be, but we have to start with the right understanding of what marriage is before we jump into the how-to, okay? I stole this quote from Marchie, I can't lie, okay? From Father Alexander Schmemann, okay? But essentially what he was talking about was what the problems were with modern day marriages. And it's so funny, we just had this conversation on a trip that I was on 2 weeks ago, okay, where why do you think marriages are breaking up? And one person pipes up and says, oh, social media, it's the devil, it's breaking up marriages. Another person's like, oh, adultery, oh, breaking up marriages. I mean, maybe a manifestation of a deeper problem, but whatever. Another person's like, oh, abuse, sure. I'm sure all of that are contributors, okay? But there's a deeper rooted issue. And the deep-rooted issue is that people don't know what marriage is supposed to be. People are disillusioned because they don't know what it's supposed to look like. So the purpose of goals is to show you what it's supposed to look like. And then you work backwards from that, because then your dating models what it's supposed to look like. Your dating models the attainment of that goal of marriage as a path to salvation, because salvation is the ultimate goal, not marriage. Okay? And I just, before we get started, want to throw something out there. Margie had said something about like singles, or that's why people are still single or whatever. The foundation of this, okay, is that singledom is not a problem and marriage is not the solution. Okay? Please. We're gonna start with that foundation. Singledom is not a problem, marriage is not the solution. If you're miserable when you're single, you're gonna be miserable when you're married. Okay? It's not gonna solve the world's problems. Okay? We're just gonna start there. So ultimately, okay, long-winded way of saying marriage is a path to salvation. Dating is an assessment for you to figure out if this person is going to bring you closer to salvation or further away. Is this a partner yoked in the path of salvation with you? Is this somebody who wants to walk that path, to die to their desires, to have your marriage and your life and the home that you build tell the truth about who he is? Or is this some schmuck who wants to make you feel good about yourself? Right? That's what we're aiming for here. Aim high, because we're talking about salvation. So ultimately, dating is an assessment. I know it doesn't sound romantic, right? Everybody wants to be in love. I know it doesn't sound romantic. But ultimately, dating is an assessment. It's an assessment of whether this person can be yoked on the path to salvation. Okay? All right. Oh, what's happening here? Sorry. Oops. Oh, see, this is like back in the day when animations were cool. Okay, so we also want to dispel a lot of myths around dating, okay? Because there are quite a lot out there. And if you were raised in an environment like I was raised, you don't talk about it. So where do you get your education about relationships? The movies, okay? Or your parents. I'm sure you have lovely parents, lovely, okay? Lovely. But like, my parents didn't date, okay? So like, not sure I want to take my tips from that direction, okay? The problem with not clarifying these things is that unrealistic expectations lead to disappointment, okay? You get disillusioned when you're in a relationship and it doesn't look like the movies. You get disillusioned when you're like racing to the altar to get married. You get married and it doesn't look like what the movies said it was going to look like, okay? You get very confused because you don't know what to expect. The other person doesn't know what to expect. Are you doubting the person? Are you doubting yourself? Are you doubting God? Did God tell me? Yes or no? And it's a big mess, okay? There's frustration on both sides, and nobody can kind of narrow down where that frustration is coming from. And then when the relationship sometimes necessarily, sometimes unnecessarily dissolves, people carry baggage from it. So we want to get ahead of this by doing relationship goals, okay? All right, jumping into the myths. Yeah, everybody good? Questions? No? If there's anything that you guys want to fight me on, I'm in. Let's do it, okay? All right. So myth number 1 was, what was the purpose of marriage, okay? And we want to dispel that myth. Myth number 2, I love this one, okay? It should, whoops, what's going on here? Oh my goodness. Sorry. All right. So with our Mythbusters, we're going to take the movie stereotypes, which is one side of where we get our education, and church community stereotypes, which is the other side where we get our education. Okay? So myth number 2, it should just happen naturally. Okay? So what does that look like in the movies? The girl is walking and her shoe flips over and then she falls over and then there's a train coming and the guy sees her and he grabs her and saves her from the oncoming train and they lock eyes and it just clicked. Okay? Whatever, okay? I'm not gonna let my daughters watch those movies, I have to tell you, okay? It really sets you up for failure, okay? You shouldn't need anybody's help. You just follow your heart, and your heart will do all the talking, okay? All this silliness, okay? And then the church stereotype, which is actually not that different, okay, is I don't do grad meetings, okay? I don't do setups. If it's right, it's gonna happen naturally. I don't need anybody's suggestions. I don't need anybody's help. No thank you, okay? Don't get me wrong. Back in Toronto, okay, we also have creepy grad meeting vibes. We do, okay? And I get it, okay? And transparently, okay, I don't do relationship goals at grad meetings, okay? I'm not gonna dismiss all grad meetings across the board, but am I very aware of creepy grad meeting vibes? I am, okay? But don't dismiss them as an entire genre, which is what I just did, okay? Here's the thing. If you let your heart do all the talking, okay? The heart is deceitful above all things, folks, okay? If you let your heart do all the talking, okay, then your brain is not doing enough talking and you find yourself in silly situations, okay? So this idea that it should just happen naturally, I want us to question that, okay? I want you to ask yourself, what is natural? What does that mean? Okay? Because this idea of natural is going to evolve over time. Okay? 20 years ago, it was natural for Tant X to see Tant Y at church, okay, and approach them and say, hey, you have a daughter, I have a son. Match made in heaven. Natural. Okay? Today, that's unnatural. Okay? But if you ask society out there, what is natural, okay, society's going to tell you, what are the bases on dates now? Second base, first, second date, second base, or whatever it is. That's what society's going to tell you is natural. So what is natural? Is it a social construct or is it something else? Okay? Is it unnatural for you to meet somebody at church when you'd be going anyway? Topic looks really interesting. Yes, creepy grad meeting vibes, sure, okay? But the topic looks interesting. Is that unnatural? Okay? Is it unnatural to seek wise counsel? Is that unnatural? You do it about your schooling, you do it about confessions, you do it about your struggles with God, you do it about everything. Why is this area exempt to the wise counsel? But I am going to disclaimer, okay? I am going to disclaimer. Please be wise about the wise counsel that you seek, okay? Your wise counsel is not your friend who's coming out of a string of bad relationships, okay, who has no idea what they're doing, and it's the blind leading the blind. That's not wise counsel, okay? Your wise counsel doesn't necessarily need to be a relationship therapist, which I am not, okay? But it does need to be somebody who you respect. It does need to be somebody who has their focus in the right place, okay, and is yoked to the path of salvation either by themselves or with somebody else, and who essentially is somebody that you want to be when you grow up, okay? Just so you know, that is not age-related. So I've taught Bola since he was in high school. Bola's great, but there was a girl in his class, okay, when he was in high school. I was the servant, she was the kid. And I used to always tell her, I want to be you when I grow up. Not age-related, okay, but wisdom-related. So exercise wisdom in the wise counsel that you seek. But there is, I don't have to read this for you, there are enough verses about the silliness of carving your own way when you have no sweet clue what you're doing, and the wisdom in seeking wise counsel. See, like, I gotta update these. I'm also gonna just offer a suggestion, okay, that people who feel like they don't need any help probably need a lot of help. Okay? And they always say, okay, don't be vulnerable unnecessarily to the sin of pride. Because the first person to be proud is the first person to fall. Okay? The first person who says, I got this, is the person who doesn't got this. Okay? So be insightful about where you have no sweet clue what you're doing. Be insightful about the fact that relationships are hard, navigating them are hard, and 99.9% of the time, you actually do need the help. Okay? So take it. Seek wise counsel, pray about it. Don't let your pride get in the way of being yoked to the path of salvation. Okay? All right. Now it gets fun. This is where you guys start throwing rocks at me, okay? So, myth number 3, okay? The movies will tell you all men are jerks, okay? All men are afraid of commitment, and all men are interested in dating around and nothing more, and they don't want a serious relationship, okay? And the old school church community, maybe St. Paul's is exempt, I don't know, I don't really know you guys that well, okay? Will tell you that traditional men want domesticated women. She has to cook like my mom, okay? Traditional men are intimidated by independent women, okay? They yearn for the days where the wife stays home and takes care of the kids and blah, 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 because they're the rogel, okay? That's what they'll tell you, okay? So can we probe that just a little bit, okay? Just a little bit. So, all men are afraid of commitment? True. True. And they are particularly afraid of commitment when it is the wrong girl, the wrong place, or the wrong time. And thank God they are afraid of commitment with the wrong girl, or the wrong place, or the wrong time. Because if they weren't, you guys would all be on the path to divorce instead of the path to salvation. Okay? How many people do you guys know, maybe I'm dating myself, I don't know, okay, where like, you know somebody who's been dating for like 8 years, since they were high school, they're high school sweethearts and university, and they're breaking up and getting back together, and they've been dating forever, and then they have the final breakup. And then 8 months later, he's engaged. And they're like, what happened? He's a jerk. He was leading her on for 100 years. What happened? No, friends, okay? Wrong place, wrong girl, wrong time. Maybe he's a jerk. I don't know him. Maybe he's a jerk, okay? But 9 times out of 10, wrong girl, wrong place, wrong time. And thank God. Thank God. So this myth, I fully support. Because if he ain't feeling it, you can't force it. And you don't want him to. You don't want him to. But, okay, I am going to say that guys do have a responsibility. They don't have a responsibility to marry every girl that they date. Certainly not. And they actually have the opposite, okay? But they do have a responsibility to rise to the calling with which they were called, okay? It's 2024, everybody's woke, nobody wants to talk about gender roles, whatever. I'm from a different diocese, so sue me, I don't care, okay? But they do have a responsibility to rise to the calling with which they were called. And if you look biblically, if you look at the design, okay, of how men were designed to complement women, and women were designed to complement men, they have a calling. That calling is to love wholeheartedly and sacrificially, wholeheartedly. That calling is to show strength of character, okay? Strength of character. You were not called to be a doormat. You were not called to be passive. You were not called to lead somebody on and drag somebody along the journey when you're still figuring your stuff out. That is not who you were called to be. So you may not have been called to marry every single person that you date, especially if you're not feeling it, but you were called to be a man about it. And if it's not working, you were called to say something. And if it's not working and you're not into it, you were called to set appropriate boundaries and to be transparent. That's what you were called to do. And so, yes, they're afraid of commitment if it's the wrong girl, wrong place, wrong time, but they have a responsibility to do that properly. They have a responsibility to pursue God in a relationship through spirituality, emotional security, and purity, and do it with love, gentleness, and confidence. They have a responsibility. So they're not off the hook just because they don't have to marry every girl that they date. Because their job is still hard, but it's the calling to which they were called. And your expectation, ladies, as girls, is that they can do this. Your expectation is not that he will marry you just because you guys went out for coffee 3 times. But your expectation is that he will do this because this is the design. And he is accountable to rise to the design. Okay? This is the design. The design is the husband is to the wife what Christ is to the church, okay? Now, at some point during this weekend that I'm here, okay, it happens every time. I'm going to get the feminists, they're going to put their hand up, they're going to quote Ephesians, they're going to say, what do you think about that? We're going to get there. We're going to get there, friends, okay? I can't wait. I love the juicy ones. We're going to get there, okay? But the design is that he is to be what Christ was to the church. What was Christ to the church? Provider, support, sacrificial, okay? He was like everything for the church. He put down his life for the church, okay? He loved wholeheartedly, sacrificially, okay? That is what you are called to be to who you end up marrying, okay? Not date 3, I'm gonna be sacrificial, okay? We're talking about marriage here, okay? And she is called to be what the church was. And we're gonna get into that in a later talk. But this is the design. And you are looking for somebody who has their eye on the prize. Their eye is salvation. Their eye is modeling Christ. And you don't model Christ by walking away from somebody without saying anything. You don't model Christ by leading a girl on for 8 years. You know you're not feeling it, but until somebody else comes that's better, you're just going to stick with it. Because at least she makes you feel good about yourself. That's not modeling Christ. So yes, they don't have a responsibility to marry every single girl, but they have a responsibility to model Christ, who was honest and transparent and bold and sacrificial and had his eye on the prize. Okay? And similarly, for the girls, but we're going to get there, okay? Their calling is to be the church. We're going to get there. We'll get there, okay? The girls don't get off easy, guys. Please trust me. They don't get off easy, okay? Now, part of that myth was also that all men want domesticated women. I love this one, okay? I wouldn't necessarily classify myself as a feminist now. I was like a little crazy when I was younger. I've mellowed out, okay? I wouldn't necessarily call myself a feminist. But would I call myself domestic? I don't think so, okay? I want to clarify this one, okay? The design is complementary, okay? We are designed to complement each other, okay? By design, men are attracted to the nurturing side of women because we're better at it, okay? And we're going to talk about this in a later talk. I can't remember which one because there's too many now and I've lost track. Thanks, Marchie, okay? We are better at nurturing. We are better at creating what we call emotional safety. We are better at creating an environment, okay? It's an environment. That is not necessarily tied to tasks, okay? So domestic is a really superficial example of a deeper need that guys have and a deeper skill that girls have, which is to be what the church was, which is the refuge. The church is the refuge. The church is the safe haven. When you look at the ideal design for the churches, what everybody is striving to be, what I Am Ministries is striving to accomplish, is that the church is the refuge. It's a safe haven. It's where you come, no matter who you are, you come as you are. And you're okay to be here. You're safe to be here. You're welcomed. You are like open arms as you are. That is what we are called to create in our homes, in our relationships. And I'm not just talking about guys. Girls, we're gonna get into this. I'm getting ahead of myself here, but this is what we're good at, okay? And they are wired to be attracted to that nurturing side of us. They're wired that way. So domestic is a really superficial example of something much deeper, okay? It's not necessarily cooking and cleaning. It's how you make him feel. Do you build him up with your words or do you tear him down? Do you make him feel like he's walking on eggshells all the time? Or is he somebody who knows that no matter what he does, you see what he's capable of? You see his potential. You see that he's got his eye on the prize and you see where God is taking him. That's the difference. So like, okay, I'm going to out all my skeletons in my closet here, okay? Listen, I work hard, okay? Sometimes I have a lot of guilt about how hard I work, like in my career. I come from a family dynamic the way I was raised that like maybe doesn't necessarily support this whole idea of like women in the workforce. Totally fine. We're not going to get into it. I have baggage. Totally fine. Okay? Am I an excellent cook? Like I'm okay, I would say. Like we survive. Okay? I would say I'm okay. Okay? And like when I'm on mat leave, I'm an excellent cook because I have all the time in the world. Okay? When I'm at work, like folks, we gotta work, okay? My husband will eat anything, thank God. God gave me a husband that'll eat anything. You serve him a plate of anything and he'll eat it, excellent, no problem. He never complains, he's a great guy, excellent, okay? Is my cooking, or absence of cooking, what makes my husband feel that emotional safety? No, not at all. You know what does it for my husband? Okay? My husband is a simple guy. He's a great guy. All the girls in this room, I pray with my whole heart that you get a Rami. I pray. None of you will, because there's only one of him and I have him, and I'm sorry. But I pray that you get somebody as close to him as you can, because he's the best. There's nobody better. He's the best, okay? But please, one day, something close, okay? He's a very simple guy. He's stressed. There's two things he needs in life. Basketball, like Jesus, obviously, okay? Goes without saying. Wow, Abuna Thomas literally told me, don't make me look bad, I've already done it, okay? Jesus, number one, okay? Number two, far number two, okay? Basketball, ice cream, that's it, okay? So Rami's stressed, okay? Rami had something happen at work, whatever's happening with Rami, I will either, okay, send him to a basketball run with his friends. For Father's Day, we planned a basketball tournament, okay? My husband's not a material guy. There's nothing you can buy him in the world because he wants nothing in the world, okay? So what do our gifts look like? We ran a basketball tournament, a daddy basketball tournament. Bunch of old guys who still want to reclaim their youth, okay? Pounding it out in a church gym, okay? And like feeling like they're Michael Jordan in his prime, but then you look at the videos and you're just like, you're actually just walking, but it's totally fine. It's totally fine, okay? Or he's very stressed, and I drive to McDonald's, drive through, order a cone, hold it in front of the air conditioner as I'm driving, and bring it home to him. That's it. It's got nothing to do with, do I do laundry, and do I cook, and nothing to do with that. And everything to do with how I make him feel. Does he feel respected? Does he feel like I believe in him? Yes or no? That's the part that they're trying to say. That's the domestic part that they're using the wrong word for. They're attracted to what you create in the home. That's it. Okay? Now, the opposite of that is that men are intimidated by independent women. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about it, okay? Would I classify myself as a feminist? No. Well, maybe once. I don't know. It depends on how you define feminism. We'll talk about this later. Has some negative connotations, has some positive. We'll talk about it later, depending on how you were raised, okay? Would I classify myself as independent? Yes, I would, certainly, okay? And would I argue that before you get into a relationship, you need to be two whole people, knowing that he makes you whole, okay? Not I make me whole, he makes you whole, okay? See? Buddha Thomas, he's going to be proud. Yes, okay? Are men intimidated by your independence and your capacity to do what you got to do and to handle your business? No. Are they turned off by women who don't leave room for them to rise to the design? Yes. So if your independence, okay, which is often misdiagnosed or misnamed the same way we use the domestic, like, misnaming, if your independence robs them of their opportunity and their ability to rise to the calling, yes, they are turned off by that. And rightly so, transparently, rightly so. The hardest thing, and we're going to talk about this in another talk later in the weekend, again, I don't know when because everything's a jumble, okay? For girls, it is a huge testament of your strength to watch him drop the ball, okay, and hang back. Because it is in our nature to watch him drop the ball and just swoop in and take over, because I can do it better. And I know I can do it better. Transparently, I can do it better. Okay, whatever it is we're talking about, can I do it better than my husband? Yes, so humble, right? I can. Girls are smarter, just kidding, okay? Not a feminist, okay? But, or maybe a feminist, depends, what's the vibe of the room? Feminist, like vibe check, yes or no? Okay, moving on, we're moving on. I'm gonna get myself in trouble. My spidey sense is tingling, I'm gonna get myself in trouble. Okay. It is a testament of your strength to be able to let him do it. Not because you can't. Everybody knows that you can. He knows that you can. I know that you can. You know that you can. But to let him rise to the calling that he was called to. And when your independence does not allow for that, yeah, they're not attracted to that. They're not intimidated by you, but you are taking from them their opportunity to be Christ, to learn that sacrificial love, to learn how to die to their selfish desires in glorification of Him. Why would anybody want that? Why would anybody be yoked to that? So don't tell yourself that it's your independence. Maybe some guys it's your independence, like old school, like creepy grad meeting vibes, maybe, okay? But if you're doing everything right, don't mislead yourself into thinking that it's your independence, okay? Make sure your independence is not mutually exclusive with His calling, okay? And it's not your independence that He's turned off by, but your inability to let Him realize His. That's the difference, okay? No one's gonna fight me? No? No fighting? Okay, all right, we'll see, okay? I'm not gonna get into this, we have like a whole series about this, okay? But if you wanna parallel the difference between what to do and what not to do, not today, because I already feel like I'm running out of time, okay? I strongly encourage you to go read 1 Samuel 25 about Abigail, David and Abigail, and then read 1 Kings 21 about Jezebel, okay? Abigail, what to do, Jezebel, what not to do, okay? Abigail sees a disaster, okay? David, we know David is anointed by God, we know, okay? He's big stuff, we know, okay? But about to make a huge mistake. You know the reason I love David? Because he's like me, highs and lows, okay? Big roller coaster, okay? It's very dramatic, just like me, okay? Highs are up here, and lows are down here, and woe is me, my life is hard, whatever. All my favorite characters in the Bible are dramatic like me, okay? He's about to make the biggest mistake, okay? And instead of coming down on him, and what are you doing? Are you crazy? What is wrong with you? She uses her words to build him up, to show him what she knows he can be, to see him through the eyes of God, the potential, like what God sees him capable of. And she uses her words to build him up instead of tear him down. Okay? That's the nurturing side. That's the emotional safety side. Okay? Jezebel, opposite. Her husband, granted, was like a schmuck. Okay? Like, they say he was like the worst guy in the Bible. Okay? Schmuck. I imagine him to be like Ahab, to be like very short, very fat, like small man syndrome, like just like a mess all around. Okay? Sorry, can I say that? I can't say that. Stop recording. I can't say that. Sorry, okay? Sorry. My sister's like, I'm so embarrassed. It's totally fine, okay? She sees him drop the ball, which he's going to because he's a mess, okay? And what does she do? Just swoops in and takes over. I think she actually says it. Like, he's like whining and crying because somebody took the vineyard and my life is so hard or whatever. And what does she do? Stop your whining and crying. I will handle this. Step aside. I will handle this. And in that moment, essentially just minimizes him and dismisses him. What calling? What design? Doesn't matter because she swooped in and she's taken over. So if you're curious about the what to do and the what not to do, strongly encourage you to compare and contrast Abigail and Jezebel. Okay? We got series upon series upon series about this, but just have a read. Okay? David and Abigail is like Disney in the Bible, you know? It's like love story, and they lived happily ever after, they got married, plus or minus like 10 wives after, totally fine, culturally appropriate and sensitive. And then Jezebel is what not to do, okay? All right, myth number 4. Okay, so we just destroyed the guys, right? We destroyed them. Now, girls, your turn, okay? The movies will tell you that all women are crazy, okay? My husband has never said that to me ever, okay? He really hasn't. He's so nice, but he should, okay? All women need to have the last word. We'll get to it, okay? And the church stereotypes will tell you that all women are crazy. Yes, seems to be consensus across the board, okay? Too emotional or sensitive and love to gossip, okay? Let's probe that just a little bit, okay? Let's probe it. Number 1, this crazy thing, okay? Okay, but who isn't crazy, okay? Who isn't? Maybe my crazy is a little bit more visible than your crazy, okay? Maybe you hide your crazy a little bit better, okay? But who isn't crazy? And actually, one person who's not typically very wise but showed a flash of wisdom once told me that everybody's crazy. You just have to find the crazy that you can live with, you know? The crazy that's compatible with yours. I'm extremely crazy. But is my husband like crazy, like in his own way, he's a little crazy. But our crazies work, okay? So this whole idea of just women are crazy, false. You're all crazy. Everybody in this room is crazy. And anybody who thinks they're not crazy is probably the craziest in the room, okay? Now, need to have the last word. I love this one, okay? If you take every disagreement in a relationship, okay, and you boil it down to its root, it's usually one of two things. Either the guy doesn't feel respected or the girl doesn't feel loved. Usually, one of those two causes. And most often, as the conflict spirals, and we'll get to conflict resolution later at some point in the weekend, okay, a combination of both throughout the course of the issue, okay? In somebody, girl or guy, wanting to have the last word, is it that they want to have the last word, or is it that you're not appreciating what they're running low on? Okay? And if it's a guy, it's very commonly not feeling respected, and if it's a girl, it's very commonly not feeling loved. Is it the last word, or is it you're not hearing? You're not hearing how I'm feeling. Because I'll tell you, any side, guy or girl, running low on core needs, and we're going to talk about core needs and temperaments, or somebody's going to talk about core needs and temperaments, will result in irrational behavior or crazy behavior. So when we talk about temperaments, we talk about responding to why they're behaving that way, not what they're doing. And that's like, if I could give you anything, okay, to set you up for like life, it's responding to the why, not the what, okay? In relationships, service, like whatever it is, responding to why that person is behaving that way, not responding to what. Responding to the core need that is not being met, not responding to the manifestation of the core need not being met. So like, when we talk about, this is a little season inappropriate, but we talk about like Pentecost, okay? We talk about the first fruits, right? Pentecost is the first fruits. It's like the festival, the harvest of the first fruits. And what they would do during that festival is that they would take all of the harvest of that season and they would go to God and offer God the first fruits, right? And it just so happened that that happened while the disciples were receiving the Holy Spirit. So what did they do? They received the Holy Spirit from God, the comfort that they received because they were all petrified that he's leaving again, okay? And they went out and they offered the first fruits. They offered the comfort that they received. They offered the love, the grace, the mercy, like the comfort that they received, they went and offered it out. That's what we're supposed to be seeing. In the other person, whether it's somebody that you're dating or somebody that you're serving, like somebody that you're talking to, somebody that you run into. We were in Target earlier, and some woman sassed me. I was like, wow, Californians, these guys are wild, okay? We were walking like this, we're talking. I have my Sudafed because I'm like a little sick, and I'm walking like this, and I don't know, like step out of her way or something. She's like, excuse me, okay? Well, just chill out here, Californians, okay? What's happening? I could have responded to the what, which is to sass her right back, which is actually intuitive for me, okay? Or, I don't know this woman, responded to the why. And that's the goal. The goal is to train ourselves to be able to respond to the why, not the what. So is it that she needs to have the last word? Or is it that there's something deeper behind that you're not hearing, that you're not seeing, that you're not acknowledging? And is it, on either side, that you're wrapped up in yourself and your selfish needs? Or is it that you are trying to empty your selfish needs to prioritize this person's to figure out what is actually going on? Okay, are too emotional or too sensitive? Yes, okay? We're better at it. Just so you know, okay? We are better at navigating emotions. We are more emotionally sensitive. We get it, and you guys are dumb, okay? We're better, okay? Part of the complementary nature of guys and girls. I will tell you a story to prove it, okay? I had been dating my husband. Can I say that? I've been dating my husband. We didn't get engaged right away. Totally fine, right? Okay, cool. Okay. I had been dating my husband for I want to say 2 months or so, okay? And so he's introducing me to his best friend ever from undergrad, blah, blah, blah. And I'm pumped. This is a big deal, whatever. We go, we meet him, and he goes in for the hug and says, "Hey, fatso." What? was like, what? What? Are you talking to me? Like, what? And he's referring to this friend as fatso. Okay, I almost lost my mind. Just so you know, we have 2 daughters in my house. We do not use the F word in my house. Thank you very much. Okay, that is a no-go for us. Okay, and I'm just like jaw to the ground. Okay, fast forward 2 weeks later. Okay, we're going to see a movie. Don't tell my mom. She still thinks we didn't see movies when we were dating. It's totally fine. And when I go to the movies, I like to live, okay? So you go to the movies and you get your popcorn and then they put butter on top and then you eat the first layer and then it's gone, right? Like, what's the point of that? So I asked the nice man at the counter to put a little bit of popcorn and then butter and then a little bit of popcorn and then butter. It's like a what do they call it? Like an English trifle of butter, okay? Very good. So this is the first time I'm seeing the movie with my husband and I'm doing this and he says, "Easy there, fatso." What? I just looked at him like, I'm sorry, what? What? Okay? And at this time, remember I told you I was a little bit crazy and I was younger, I've mellowed out now, whatever. At the time, I would not allow my husband to pick me up and drop me off because my car is my legs, okay? And I do not like to be without my legs. So it took a very, very long time for me to let my husband pick me up because if I want to leave, I want to have the capacity to leave. In that moment, I just said, and I picked up my keys, took my popcorn, and I left. Not leaving that popcorn behind, okay? She just made it to perfection, okay? Thank you. And I just got in my car and I drove away. And the poor guy's just like, what just happened, okay? And he's blindsided, I'm blindsided, okay? Eventually, when we talked about it, I'm like, you can't say stuff like that. I didn't think that this needed to be articulated, but clearly you just go around calling everybody fatso. You can't just use that word, okay? And my husband is a very respectful guy, right? And this was genuinely a reflection of he's just dumb. They're just, they don't get it. Not my husband's dumb. Guys, they. He's not watching the recordings, okay? It's great. It's going great. This is going great, okay? They just don't get it. Okay? And when I sat with him and explained to him, you can't call Ramez fatso. What if he's got an eating disorder? Or what if what if something's going on in there? And he's just you're overthinking. Okay? I just want to say, we've been married for almost 12 years. Okay? Fast forward to 4 years ago, he went on a health kick. This friend that was called fatso for the majority of his life, okay? He lost 60 pounds, joined a gym, now he's on the Orange Theory logo, and then when that happened, I'm like, see? You did this. You did this. Why? Because you couldn't predict it, because we are better at navigating emotions. So if you want to misname that the way we misname domestic, fine. Call us emotional. Call us sensitive. All you're saying is that we're better at this, and we are. We are. And in a relationship, sometimes it's frustrating, okay, when the girl's up here in terms of emotional navigation and emotional sensitivity, and he can't meet her there, okay? And we'll talk about that, because nobody's going to arrive to a relationship whole, okay? And they're never going to be as high as you want them to be, but they're going to show progress, okay? But we have to be able to acknowledge the differences, and that is one of the core differences. So call it whatever you want, derogatory or not. Is it true? Yeah, it's true. Sorry, not sorry, okay? Women love to gossip. Women need to talk. Some women like to gossip, okay? We're going to talk about temperaments. We're going to make this one not a gender thing, okay? And we're going to talk about people that, someone's going to talk about temperaments. We're going to talk about external processing and internal processing, okay? So when we get to the temperaments, your blues and your greens are internal processors, okay? So something happens and all the working it out happens inside, okay? And then your reds and yellows are external processors. So they talk to think, and they talk to process, and they talk to figure it out, okay? Often, this is mistaken for gossip, this external processing, okay? But we'll talk about it a little bit more when we get to the temperaments, okay? All right, any heresies so far? Anybody want to challenge it? Remember the design? No? No heresies so far? The night is young. Okay. Now, the guys have a responsibility, and we talked about that, and so do the girls, okay? There is a calling to which we were called. Everybody is called to rise to the design. Everybody, okay? Guys, we talked about it. what it means, what it looks like, and we're going to get deeper into it. Girls, we have a similar design. We are supposed to be the church. What was the church? The church empowered what Christ taught. The church operationalized what Christ taught. The church was the hands and the feet of what he started. Okay? The church is solid. The church is stable. The church is supposed to be the refuge and the safe haven. The church is supposed to lovingly accept everybody with open arms. Okay? The church is supposed to build up, not tear down. You walk into church, okay, and unfortunately, sometimes, okay, people have misunderstood the calling, which is totally fine, okay? We're going to fix it. We're going to get there. I am, okay? Hashtag rediscover I am, okay? But what we are supposed to be as a church, okay, as Christians, children of God, women, okay, is that we are supposed to be the refuge. We're supposed to be the safe haven. We're supposed to take what we're good at, which is communication, which is emotional navigation, which is emotional safety, and use that to build people up, not tear them down. Somebody screws up, and we inspire, and we motivate, and we empower, not wreck them. That's what we're supposed to be, okay? And so when he does something dumb, okay, whether you're going to marry him or not, your calling stays the same. And your calling is across the board. It's relationships, it's service, it's friendships, it's professional relationships, it's across the board. You are supposed to be the church. You are supposed to operationalize what Christ taught you. You are supposed to be the mouth and the hands and the feet of what Christ taught you. And Christ taught you to build people up, not break them down. And with our words, girls specifically, we can do both. We can do both. You know what's my favorite? When a girl says something that's like slap in the face, okay? It's like one of those comments that like, wow, you feel like you just got smacked across the face, okay? And then you call her out and she says, oh, did you take it that way? No, you must have misunderstood. Cutie, you know exactly what you were doing, okay? And girls, we know exactly what we're doing. Or like the best is like when a girl is like, oh, did you think we were more than friends? Oh, did you read that to be like more? No, you must have misread, cutie. Stop joking around, okay? We know exactly what we're doing. With girls, with guys, with people, we know how to have the desired impact using our words. It is a skill. It is a God-given skill. Emotional sensitivity and emotional navigation. But we are called to take that skill and to use it to be the church, to build up rather than to tear down. And so you don't have to marry every guy that you date, but you better not be wrecking every guy that you date. Whether your relationship ends in marriage or not, he better not walk away a third of the man that he started because of the way you used your words, right? And we are called to do that with wisdom, discernment, and strength and honor. We're going to get to it in another talk. Okay? Okay. Myth number 5. Am I running out of time? I'm running out of time. Okay. Myth number 5. There is a way that you're supposed to date. Okay? So like the movies, she falls and he picks her up and he saves her from the train and blah, blah, blah. And then they have to have the first date and then they have to kiss. And there's like a formula. Okay? Formula. I'm shooting myself in the foot. We'll get there. Okay? The church stereotype. Okay? Have you guys ever seen these videos? Maybe I'm dating myself. Have you ever seen these videos? Stuff Coptic guys say and stuff Coptic girls say. I used to show the videos because the guy in stuff Coptic guy says is his good friend, and like he really does not look like that anymore, and we just like to roast him when we play the video. But if you've never seen it, it's really funny. I'm not sure if it's culturally sensitive or appropriate, but it's really funny, okay? Anyway, okay? There are stereotypes of how this is supposed to go, okay? The first stereotype is the movies, okay, and how it's supposed to happen and blah, 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 okay? Here's the thing. There's no dating trajectory in the Bible that you can follow. The Bible doesn't give you a formula. It doesn't. I would love it if it did. It would make relationship goals very easy, but it doesn't, okay? Is there, like, love in the Bible? Absolutely, okay? Christ-like love, obviously, okay? Song of Solomon, really interesting read, okay? There are love stories, okay? Isaac and Rebecca, love at first sight, okay? Right? Ruth and Boaz, the feet thing, culturally appropriate, whatever, okay? David and Abigail, Disney in the Bible, okay? There are love stories, but they don't model our current, culturally appropriate forms of dating, okay? So that there's not necessarily black and white guidelines on what the trajectory is supposed to look like, but there are definitely clear guidelines on the kind of person you're supposed to be, right? And that is then going to feed into what dating is going to look like. So, for example, in Galatians, okay? Now the works of the flesh are evident, which are adultery, fornication, uncleanness, lewdness, idolatry, sorcery, hatred, contention, jealousies, outbursts of wrath, selfish ambitions, dissensions, heresies, envy, murder, blah, 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 all that stuff, okay? Personally, I don't want to date any of those people. I certainly do not want to date somebody who has outbursts of wrath, okay? I certainly do not want to date somebody unclean, okay? Like, I certainly don't want to date a sorcerer. What is that even, okay? Certainly not, okay? So while there may not be clear guidelines on how you're supposed to date, there are clear guidelines on who you're supposed to be. And who you're supposed to be is then going to feed into who you are, okay? And who you become, and what your goals are, and what your path to salvation looks like. And that's like the basis or the framework for how you're supposed to date. So we talked about the design, okay? The design for guys is be David, not Ahab, okay? Don't be a baby. Don't be passive. Don't whine and cry. Don't expect everybody to do everything for you, okay? Boys. Be David, okay? Listen, okay? When somebody tells you that you're doing something wrong, respectfully and in love and in a very well articulated way, like Abigail, okay? Hear, because you're not infallible, okay? Lead to purity, to emotional security, to spirituality, okay? Be Christ, okay? Be that. For girls, you are not supposed to be Jezebel. You are not supposed to be disrespectful and dismissive and use your words to harm rather than help. But you are supposed to be somebody who walks away from you. You are supposed to be somebody who, when people walk away from you, they feel inspired. They feel empowered. They feel confident in who God wants them to be. They feel confident that God sees them in this way because you said that, and you showed them, and you saw them the way God sees them. You saw them through Christ's eyes. That's who you're supposed to be. So I don't know how you're supposed to date, okay? But this is what you're supposed to be. And when you can have your eye on the prize, you're not going to arrive to dating fully formed. Dating follows. Okay. This one's very fun, okay? Number 6, that's just not my type, okay? I love this one, okay? So in the movies, too big, too small, too short, too tall, too fat, too thin. Just so happens that in all the rom-coms, all the women look a certain way and all the men look a certain way. Whatever, okay? It's totally fine. I don't let my daughters play with Barbies. It's totally fine, okay? Church stereotypes, okay? We have some really, really interesting views on, thresholds, okay? So there's a threshold for an age difference, okay? And that age difference has kind of shortened a little bit as years have passed. You have tons of uncles who are 25 years apart, and you're like, how's that even possible? But it's possible, okay? There are thresholds about too Coptic and too not, okay? So, funny story, okay? My husband is Egyptian, I promise. He's very Egyptian, okay? But when we got married, we used to joke that this is a very mixed marriage, okay? I grew up in a uber conservative church with uber conservative parents, okay? Just so you know, Rami was never called my boyfriend. We don't use that word in our house. It's a swear word. Can't ever say that, okay? No boyfriends, okay? Rami was, my dad referred to him as pre-engagement. That's what he would call him. I swear. Okay. Sidebar, okay? My husband is an identical twin, okay? So his twin brother got engaged a couple months before us, okay? And his wife was from another province. Do you guys know Canadian geography? Probably not. Halifax, you know what that is? Probably not. It's totally fine. It's far, okay? Doesn't matter. So she's from another province, okay? And so their engagement is in the province where she lives, okay? Rami and I are still dating at this point. Not dating, pre-engagement, okay? And so Rami comes from a super, what's the politically correct way to say it? Assimilated family? Super assimilated into Western culture, okay? We can't say white. okay? So his parents are just like, come, sleep over. Wah! Taylor's getting engaged. Come to the engagement in Halifax. And I'm just like, lady, I'm not even allowed to come to your house for dinner. Like, I can't, like, okay? And they begged my parents and pleaded with my parents, please, she has to come. She can't miss Tamar's engagement. Tamar is like one of my best friends. Like, Tamar and I are very similar temperaments, and like my husband and Tamar's wife are very similar. So like Tamar's like my ally. I was friends with Tamar before I even met my husband, okay? They're like, please, please, please. And so I didn't even talk about it with my parents. I'm like, there's no way this is going to happen. I know my limits, whatever. I came home one night, and then my mom's like, so? She's doing one of these. I'm like, oh my God, I'm in trouble. I don't even know what happened, okay? And she says, like, my husband's mom's name. She called me today. I'm like, okay. And she was like, they want you to go to Halifax. And I was like, okay. I'm not sure where this is going. And she says, Hai ulo haliki eh. And I'm like, what? She's like, of course you can't go. Of course not. When they introduce you, what are they going to say? Who are you? Girlfriend! And she like freaks out at the idea that somebody could have the audacity to refer to me as somebody's girlfriend. Did I go to Halifax? I did not, folks. I did not go to Halifax. I did not go. Okay? So I grew up in this like super like conservative environment, okay? Is this part of the reason why we started relationship goals? Maybe I have baggage, maybe, okay? But it's fine, okay? It's fine. He uses everything for good, it's fine, okay? So my husband is not like me, okay? And he comes from a very assimilated family. Like his mom is just like, why don't you bring me any girlfriends? Come on, bring them home, like blah, blah, blah. When we first started dating, she's like, come sleep over, this lady's crazy, okay? I also grew up in a very conservative church, so we were just like deacons, long hymns, like nothing's in English, like Coptic, like everything is Coptic, like long hymns are my jam, okay? Like genuinely, okay? Tasbih, that's my jam, okay? My husband is like, wow, worship, okay? Like that's his vibe, okay? Like not really a deacon, does not read Coptic, like, you know, he only started dressing as a deacon when I had my son because I begged him and pleaded with him because my son has the same love for long Coptic hymns as I do. Like, that is not his thing, okay? So we always joke that this is a mixed marriage, okay? Here's the problem with that's just not my type, okay? I didn't date my husband for a long time, okay? And to his credit, he really tried, okay? And he pursued for a long time, and I was not interested, okay? The reason I was not interested is because my husband is 6 years older than me, and at the time that was shocking, okay? And my sister, who's sitting in the crowd, when we first told her, was like, who is this old guy that you're dating, okay? Maybe it was socially unacceptable because of some people sitting in the crowd, but it's totally fine. She was like 12, it's fine, okay? I didn't date him because of his chosen profession, and I wasn't about that life, okay? And his like very non-Copticness, okay? Because that's who I am, and I assumed that I needed somebody just like me, like to be with me, okay? Here's the problem, okay? I took Rami, who is Rami, okay? Like I pray for a Rami for all of you, okay? And I defined him by these three things. Also, like he was from a church that I was just like, no, we don't date people from that church, okay? And now, ironically, I give talks in his church, his home church, and still maintain that like we don't like you guys, okay? It's totally fine, okay? And I then took him and I limited him to these three things. And in doing that, I limited God to these three things. And I said, this is what defines him. And that's not fair. It's not. Because I always say this about Rami. Rami was everything I didn't know I wanted. That's Rami. Like if I could summarize our dating in one sentence, he's everything I didn't know I wanted, okay? At the time, I was raised in a super uber old school conservative church, okay? But Rami showed me there is another way, okay? This deacon way is not the only way to God. Okay, and arguably the deacon way has a few challenges, no problem, we're not going to talk about that today, okay? But this is not the only way to God. And there is nobody currently that I know, like Marchie's great and everything, but like there's nobody currently that I know who is more yoked to God than my husband. He's number one, okay? There is nobody who so clearly reflects God in everything that he is, everything that he does, than my husband. Does my husband sing the long hymns on Good Friday? No, he pulls out his Protestant book and reads his Protestant book, okay? That's not his vibe, okay? But do I have any shadow of a doubt that my husband is 100% led by God, not a sliver of a doubt. Nothing. Because he showed me that there is another way, and it looks different. And my previous perceptions of what it's supposed to look like, and my dad's perceptions, okay, of what it's supposed to look like are not necessarily reality, okay? To this day, okay? My dad was like a super deacon or whatever when he was younger. He prides himself on it, whatever, Egypt, whatever, okay? To this day, my dad will ask Rami, like, by the way, Rami's like so loved in my family. My mom tells me on a regular basis, Rami's the best thing you ever did for this family. Yes, I'm aware. Thank you so much. Okay? And so, like, Rami's like their number one. Ask my sister. He's like the beloved in the family. Okay? Of course. Who doesn't love Rami? He's the best. Okay? And so to this day, though, my dad will be like, Rami, how come you don't dress as a deacon? And Rami will be like, Uncle, like, we've had this conversation, like, I'm not really a deacon. And he goes, you are. No, you are. And my dad gets like, he's like offended on Rami's behalf that he could call himself not a deacon. You are. And he gets like really upset, okay? They still haven't come around to this idea that like, there's another way, okay? The point, okay, of all this like skeletons in my closet, okay? This is like therapy for me, okay? The point of all this, okay, is that with this type business, okay, you limit somebody to something that's very superficial, okay? And you don't give them a chance to be who they are. You define them by these 2 or 3 superficial things, which might not be fair. And honestly, if I was talking like to somebody that was in our position, okay, if I was like coaching on my husband's side, I would have told her like, bro, you gotta bail. Like, just get out. To his credit, he didn't, and thank God he didn't, okay? But I would have told him, get out, bro, she's crazy. I am crazy, okay? Don't be the person that somebody is coaching for this person to just walk away. Don't limit somebody unfairly and unnecessarily by things that are superficial, okay? I want you guys to be able to differentiate between what's the difference between a deal breaker and a preference, okay? My preference at the time was that my husband was not this chosen career because I didn't want it and I didn't want this lifestyle, okay? My preference at the time was that he did not go to this church, okay? My preference at the time, okay, was that he was like a little bit younger, okay? That was my preference at the time. Those are preferences. The difference between a deal breaker and a preference is that a deal breaker is a conviction, okay? It's something that if it never changes, you will never be able to live with it, okay? It is usually based on faith, values, morals, ethics. It is core stuff, okay? A preference is something that's a nice to have, okay? It would be nice if Rami was 5.5 years older than me, not 6 years older than me. Who cares? Okay? Now we're old and it doesn't even matter. Okay? It would be nice if whatever. So I want you guys, when you are saying that's not my type, be able to differentiate between a deal breaker and a preference. If it's a deal breaker, all the power to you. Okay? You have insight, good for you, and everybody should have their deal breakers. Like, loves God. No deal breaker. Okay? Fair. Totally fair. Okay? But 6'4" versus 6'2", not a deal breaker. Okay? That's a preference. Okay? Like, again, loves God, serves with their whole heart. Okay, sure, deal breaker. Okay? I don't like his shoes. Preference. Okay? Now, there's also like this piece in between. Okay? Between deal breaker and preference where you don't even know who you are. Okay? So, that's the piece that comes out of getting to know each other in conversation, having these discussions, being able to have like a back and forth with each other. And this is the part that's really fun, okay? But to even get to this point, you have to be able to differentiate between what's a deal breaker and what's a preference. And don't confuse your preferences for deal breakers, because then you limit that person. Okay? Fair? Yes? Thank you. All right. Number 7. Okay. So I don't know. Whoops. Sorry. I gave a little preview there. I've only been here for like a few hours. Like it hasn't been that long. And in anybody I talk to, I try to like figure out like, okay, like what's the vibe? Like what's the California vibe? You know? Are you guys like, you date too much? You date too little? Like what's like, you know? So I'm just going to extrapolate based on Toronto. Like we'll see what happens. Okay. Not a long time ago, currently, we have this misconception, okay? That, oh, that guy just likes to date around. Oh, he's kind of like scummy and he's kind of like sleazy, he's kind of slimy, he just likes to date around. Do you know how many girls he's gone out for coffee with? Like 4. Okay? And like there would be this like persona that follows this poor guy who's gone out for coffee with 4 girls that he's not serious, he's just dating around because he wants to go for coffee with so many girls. Okay? We started to probe that, okay, in our our planning for goals and stuff like that, and we tried to figure out like where is that coming from, okay? There's 2 schools of thought where it's coming from, okay? The original, where it came from, is this idea of if you date, you have to marry, okay? And that came from the old school like Somatic, right? You can't be seen out with a guy who you're not gonna marry, because then you're expired. Okay, you're off the market. You're like, the milk bags that are punctured, you have to go in the back. Okay? Well, you can't. Okay? And so anybody who is seen on multiple dates, multiple times, no, this is a hard no. Okay? Then the other side of the coin, which is like a recent arrival to the dating community in Toronto at least, okay, is these guys who serial date, okay? So they're slide into the DMs. Is that still a thing? Slide into the DMs, okay? Yeah? Apparently you can swipe up. What is that even? Marie just taught me. You can swipe up to DM somebody. Did you know that? No? Right? You're old too, see? Okay? And then they'll do that with 6 or 7 people, okay? And they're all conversations going at the same time, okay? First of all, how does he keep them straight? We don't know, but whatever, okay? So it prompts this question about casual dating, and casual dating is bad, and samaitak, and you're gonna get this reputation of being a player, and blah blah blah. So before we even talk about that, okay, we have to understand the baseline. What is dating? We talked about it, okay? Dating is an assessment. It's an assessment, okay? You walk into dating, and you're at a 50-50, okay? Either this works or it doesn't work. You don't walk into your first date with your wedding magazine. Please don't do that, okay? You walk into the date we don't know how this is gonna go. There's at least a 50% chance, if not more, that this is not gonna work. And that's okay. That's perfectly okay. Because like I said, 100% success rate. Divorce averted, okay? Or yoked to the path of salvation. A breakup is as successful because you have unyoked yourself to somebody who's not going to help you reach the final goal. As successful. So this whole idea of you can't date more than one person, are we allowed to talk about this? I've dated people before my husband, that's okay here? Yeah? Okay. This whole idea of you can't date somebody that you're not going to marry, does that follow the definition of assessment? Oh, I don't know, folks, okay? So, I want to make sure that we appreciate that you don't have to know how you feel before you go on a date. That you're going on a date to figure it out, okay? And like we said, the heart is deceitful, so we're going to talk about this later, that the first part of your dating relationship should be governed by logic, okay, and not by emotion, okay? But you do not have to have made a decision by the time you go on the first date. Now, like I mentioned, in Toronto, this was a bit of a problem a few years ago, okay? And so we were asked, I'm not going to go through them today, this is for a later talk, okay? This is a little teaser for what's coming, okay? We were asked to put together an algorithm, okay? I'm going to flip through them quickly because this is a teaser for later talks, okay? But essentially, this is bad. This is where it started 9 years ago, and this is what it's evolved to, okay? It's fine. We're going to go through it, one talk, whatever. Did we put together an algorithm? Yes, we did, okay? About what it's supposed to look like. Don't wait too long. Don't wait too little. Please talk to her. Don't just see her from a distance at church and then ask your mom to ask her if you can get married. There are some general guidelines that we've extrapolated from the kind of person that you're supposed to be, and we're going to get into that, okay, in a later talk. But the point of myth number 7 is you do not have to know how you feel. You do not have to have made a decision because you walk into that encounter and you're a 50-50 friend. 50-50, it goes either way, both outcomes as successful as the other. Okay? Okay. Number 8. You have to be a relationship expert to get into a relationship. Oh my goodness, what is going on here? Oh, okay. So, in the movies, what does this look like? He should just know. If I have to tell him, it doesn't count. What's happening? What am I doing wrong? Hi, friend. Oh, sorry, did I wreck it? So sorry. I got a little too excited about relationship goals. I'm so sorry. I must have ruined something. It's fine. Maybe it's not going to be recorded. Okay. He should just know. If I have to tell him, then it doesn't count. Okay. You hear this a lot from the girls. Okay. Well, if I have to tell him to be romantic, then it's not romantic, is it? Okay. And the other side of that was, well, he's not a leader. See? He doesn't know that I want him to get me this. He's not a leader. He's not rising to the calling. And we baptize, okay? We baptize all these things, okay? And this poor guy's just like, she doesn't know how to communicate. She's a mute. One day I walk into the date and everything's fine and everything's good. And then 5 minutes later, she's not talking to me. And what just happened, okay? Poor guy, okay? And we have this, whoops. I'm sorry, friends. I'm ruining everything. You just fixed it. Teach me how to fix it. Teach a man to fish. Yes? Okay, winner. Okay. Here's the problem, okay? You don't have to be an expert to be in a relationship, okay? You actually probably don't need any qualifications, just like me being here without any qualifications, okay? But you do have to be realistic, okay? If you don't tell him or her what you need, how are they supposed to know, okay? In the previous slide, okay, I put 3 things up there because this always makes me laugh, okay? Like I said, I've been married for 12 years, okay? I hate flowers. I hate them, okay? First of all, I don't think they smell nice. I don't know who decided that flowers smell nice. They smell horrible, okay? I don't like them, okay? I can't keep a plant alive to save my life. Please, do not buy me this. Buy me donuts, okay? I love donuts. I don't want flowers, okay? I have been married for 12 years, okay? 12 years, I would say like 8 of those years, my husband has bought me flowers, okay? And I just don't want to break his heart because he's so nice. My husband is that's what everybody feels about him when they meet him. He's so nice. And you never want to make him sad because he's like the best, okay? But finally, a few years ago, I got up the courage to just tell him like, babe, I love you so much. Please don't buy me any more flowers, okay? What is romantic to me is what he got me for my birthday. See this? You see what this is? A bouquet of donuts, friends, okay? Do you see what that is? You know what these flavors are? Strawberry cheesecake, pistachio, peanut butter and jelly, okay? This did it for me, okay? This, to me, this is romantic. Bouquet of donuts, you're a winner in my books, okay? This, flowers, no. Please don't buy me that. They smell bad. And I'm going to throw them in the garbage anyway, okay? I once had a girl, so my drive to work is about an hour each way, okay? So my drives to and from work are reserved for like relationship goals people. Like they call me, we talk, they cry, all that kind of stuff, okay? There was this one girl who called me, okay? And I put this picture because it reminds me of her, okay? And she was so upset. Sarah, like, we did everything right, and I listened to all the talks, and I want him to be a leader, and he's not, and I think I have to break up with him. I'm like, okay, person, tell me what happened. What happened? It was my birthday, and he did not fill my bedroom with 25 balloons. See Magnuna? Okay? First of all, your parents don't know that you're dating. How is he supposed to get into your room? They're going to break into your house? It's a felony, okay? It's crazy. Some people are crazy, okay? Second of all, does he know that your dream is to wake up in the morning to a room filled with balloons, which to me sounds horrible because how are you going to clean that up? But that's fine, okay? Does he know that? She's like, no, he should just know. See, Magnuna? This is not intuitive. How can anybody just know this? Okay? They can't. And similarly to my husband, how can he just know that 50% of girls think flowers are romantic, and he married the other 50% that think they're stupid and want donuts? Okay? These, no matter what side of the coin you're on, okay, they're never gonna just know. okay? And they can't just know because your definition of what's romantic or a reflection of your needs are not going to be the same as the person sitting next to you, okay? So we have to be able to talk about it. You have to be able to sacrifice your pride, okay? And your selfish need to be like waited on hand and foot and to have this guy be a psychic, okay? So, okay? And just presume to know what you need. You have to be able to talk about needs. You have to be able to communicate. You have to be able to be transparent. And by that same token, okay, it is unrealistic to expect somebody to show up to your relationship fully formed, okay? David, at your door, okay? I had a billion wives. Maybe you don't want David to show up at your door, okay? But what I mean is that you're not looking for somebody who's finished the race, okay? You're looking for somebody who's running the race and has their eye on the prize and who is walking the path. And that means that they're not going to be perfect, okay? They're not going to be perfect. And you're not perfect because you didn't tell them about the balloons, okay? But you're doing what you can to communicate openly, honestly, transparently, okay? And you're extending grace in the assessment, okay? Don't forget, this is still an assessment. But what you're looking for is not somebody who's finished the race, somebody who's making progress, somebody who's trying, somebody who's got their focus and their priorities in the right direction, somebody who may not have completely eliminated all their selfish desires in service of you, but that's because you're not married and he doesn't even know if you're worth it yet, okay? But somebody who has that potential in them, somebody who has that goal in them. And the only way you're going to be able to figure out if this is somebody who can deprioritize their selfish desires is if you communicate what you need and give them a chance to deprioritize their selfish desires. Okay? Remember we said girls are smarter? Okay? They're never going to just know. Girls, you have to tell them. Okay? As unromantic as that sounds. Okay, we alluded to this one a little bit earlier, okay, that marriage is the solution to all of life's problems, okay, and if I can just make it to the altar, then everything will be better, and all the tons will stop asking me, when am I getting married, and my life will be happy and lovely and wonderful. If you're a negative person before you get married, you're going to be a negative person after you get married, and you're going to have 2 negative people in your house, not just one, because you're going to make your spouse miserable, okay? Singledom is not a problem, and marriage is not a solution. Your happiness is not contingent on marriage, okay? And if you don't know where the source of joy actually comes from, okay, arguably, you might not be ready to be in a relationship. Because if you're looking for that source of joy in a very fallible, okay, human being, you're setting yourself up for failure. Because joy only comes from one place. And you have to know that, okay? You also cannot place this burden of your happiness on another individual. Because people will always fall short. And that is why marriage is a path to salvation, okay? We are called to be Christ and the church, okay? We are called to rise to the design, but we will fall. Okay? And part of that path to salvation is sacrifice. Okay? And knowing that this person today has driven me bonkers and has fallen short of the design, but I choose to empty myself of what I need, which they were not able to provide for me, okay? And serve them anyway. And love them anyway. That is part of the path to salvation. Okay? So you cannot place your happiness on marriage and on a sole individual, okay? I love this passage, Psalm 1, verse 1, okay? Blessed is the man who walks not in the counsel of the ungodly of the Lord, blah, blah, blah. You guys all know it, okay? I love, you'll see throughout many of the talks, going to the original word that was used, okay? I have a great app, I'll tell you about it later, okay? Where it gives you the original translation of the word that was used so that you can take it in context, okay? So in Psalm 1 verse 1, the word blessed is actually a Hebrew word called eser, okay? And it's actually translated as happiness, okay? We, in our limited translation, translated as blessed, okay? Sure, I'm happy when I'm blessed, okay? But the actual definition of the Hebrew word as an independent is defined as happiness, okay? If you look, none of the happiness described in Psalm 1 verse 1 is contingent on marriage. None of it is contingent on another human being. All of it relates to the source of joy. So if you're expecting marriage to solve your problems, to fill a void, you are expecting it to be something that it's not. And you're expecting it to be something that it's not designed to be. So please don't fall for this myth that we propagate in our culture, okay? All right. Last one, okay? As long as we love each other, nothing else matters, okay? Guy doesn't have a job, girl doesn't have a job, doesn't have a career, doesn't have a path, doesn't have anything, like, can't string two words together, but as long as we love each other, nothing matters. Love conquers all, follow your heart, blah, 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 okay? Remember we talked about this. The heart is deceitful, okay? My favorite verse, okay, and my daughter just so happened to pick this passage for her public speaking competition at her very Christian school. I was like gonna cry tears of happiness. For if our heart condemns us, God is greater than our heart and knows all things. If you use your heart, okay, as your source of truth, you're setting yourself up for some challenges here, friends, okay? The problem with this myth, is that it prevents us from talking about the real stuff, okay? And the real stuff is often where the path to salvation is manifested, because that's the hard stuff, okay? That's the challenging stuff, the social and moral and ethical and spiritual views, okay? I love when these people call me on my drives to and from work, they're like, everything's great, Sarah. This guy is like the perfect one, or the guys, they say the same thing. Perfect, everything is great, he's amazing, he's wonderful, he's exactly what I've been looking for my whole entire life. There's only one small thing we haven't talked about, it's gonna be fine. Okay, he doesn't want kids. Okay. Do you? Yeah, I want 7. Don't you think we should talk about this? Like, this is not gonna go away, it's gonna keep happening. She's amazing, she's wonderful, she's excellent, she's the best thing ever, Sarah, I can't wait to marry her. I just have one question for you. Like, do you think it's like a big deal if like she's not baptized and doesn't believe in baptism? Yes, friend. Like, we have to be able to talk about stuff, okay? Love, okay? We'll talk about when's the appropriate time to use the word love, okay? It doesn't conquer all, okay? And He has given us a spirit of fear, of power, of love, and of a sound mind, okay? And I really want you guys, especially at the beginnings of a relationship, to be leaning on the sound mind, okay? Because like we said, if you let your hearts govern, okay, it will often lead you to unwise decisions. And you're looking for a partner on the path to salvation, okay? So please, talk about the fact that he doesn't have a job. Just kidding, okay? Maybe he's gonna get a job, it's gonna be fine, okay? But leaving the legwork solely to God is a very slippery slope, okay? God joins the relationship and unites the man and woman at the point of marriage, okay? Before that, you have a lot of work to do. And after that, marriage is hard work, okay? After that, you have a lot of hard work to do. But before that, you have a lot of hard work to do, okay? You can't expect things to just be done for you, okay? And that's actually not God's MO. That's not how he operates, okay? My favorite, okay, example of this is in Exodus, okay? The Israelites had seen everything, okay? The 10 plagues, and they're leaving Egypt, and they're leaving slavery, and things are amazing, okay? And these people just complain every step of the way. All they did was complain, okay? And like the amazing things that they saw, they get to the Red Sea, okay, and they're just like, oh, drama, he's brought us here to die. He didn't want us to die as slaves. He wants us to drown. And like, drama, okay? In Moses' hand, okay, is the rod that God used to do all these great things, okay? And they're looking at like, why, God, why have you done this to us? Why have you brought us here to drown instead of die in slavery? At least in slavery we had food. They gave us food. Now we're going to starve and drown and all this drama, okay? and they're crying to God. And he's looking at them like, why do you cry to me? Tell the children of Israel to go forward, move, take a step, okay? Do all the things I've asked you to do. I'm not going to take your foot and step for you, okay? You have to move. It's the same thing in dating. You have to use your brain, okay? He's not going to do it for you. He's not going to bring the person to your front door, ring the doorbell, and say, this is the person you're supposed to marry. Arguably, if somebody shows up at your front door and rings the doorbell and says, this is the person you're supposed to marry, you're going to be like, you're creepy, okay? Use what he has given you. He has given you a spirit of love, power, sound mind. Don't be the Israelites. Use what he's given you and go forward. Okay? All right. Now the fun part. Questions. Okay? I have to get the Slido up. Hold on. Technology is not my thing. Is this right? Can you see it? Oh, yes. I'm supposed to disconnect. Okay. So, I've been watching Bola, and he looks like he's playing on his phone. If there's any juicy questions in here, I'm going to blame them all 100% on you. He asks the most inappropriate questions. Okay? Oh, yes. Okay. So, what's really cool about Slido is that even if you don't have any burning questions, if somebody else has asked a question and you like it because you also want to know the answer, it prioritizes the questions in order of popularity. So the most likes at the top and the least liked at the bottom. So even if you don't have a question, like something so that we know where you guys want to go. I'm going to be very transparent, okay? I've done a lot of talking. I don't know what time it is. It's 8:53 California time. You know what time that is in Toronto, folks? Very, very late, okay? Because you guys are 3 hours ahead of us. So I'm probably getting a little loopy, and if something gets really, really juicy and I'm going to get extradited from this diocese, I'm going to pass it over to Margie, okay? But these are usually really fun. Okay. Are we good to hit the questions? Yeah? Okay. Oh, yes. Oh, lots of boys in the crowd, I think. Oh, yes. And I like to not pre-read the questions because you get my like, wow, lots of guys in the crowd are liking this one. Okay. How did Rami know to continue to pursue even though you showed disinterest? Isn't that a bit too much? Yes. Okay. So here's the thing, okay? When Rami and I, this actually came after we were married, okay? This has been a common thing that we revisit, okay? Especially as it relates to relationship goals. Because truly, 100% in my heart of hearts, transparently, if some guy came and told me, you know, I keep like sending this girl these signals and asking her out and giving her signs and she keeps saying no, I'd be like, bro, bail, okay? Like, you did what you had to do, enough is enough, like, please, you're embarrassing yourself, like, just call it, okay? Rami didn't do that. When I ask him why, okay, this is a source of like divergence in our marriage, okay, but also an excellent reflection of there are different ways in your path to God, okay? With me, the way God speaks to me, okay, I am a stubborn mule, okay? God has to beat me over the head with it, back me into a corner, close all other doors, and then I'm like, maybe this is God's will, yeah, maybe this is what he's telling me to do, okay? Because I am logic above all. And many times, the things that God has called me to do have been illogical, okay? And for me, that is like, this can't be God, okay? Because it's illogical. But sometimes it is. And the only way he can convince me that this is what he's asked me to do is he backs me into a corner and like genuinely beats me with it, okay? And there's no way out. Then I'm like, okay, it's God. My husband is different. My husband is not as much of a stubborn mule as I am, okay? My husband is knitted to God. Like, you know that verse that talks about like their hearts being knitted? My husband is knitted to God, okay? But when we first got married, we went through like, you know, one day we'll talk about the ups and downs and whatever. We went through something that was very challenging, and we both felt like we were getting different direction from God, okay? Very different direction. Still, we're not exactly sure who was right. It's not about who's right. Moving on, okay? And when we talked about it, I'm like, how do you know that God is telling you this? Like, how do you know? And his answer is, God puts a feeling in my heart. I look at him like, are you crazy? Do you not know the verse? The heart is deceitful above all. For if our hearts condemn us, God will know. Like, are you kidding? And it took me a very long time to understand that Rami's relationship with God is different than mine. And genuinely, truly, transparently, I don't know how God talks to Rami, but do I know in my core that he does? Yes. Do I know that Rami is knitted to God? Yes. Do I have full 100% confidence that Rami is doing everything humanly possible to lead me and our family on the path to salvation? Yes. Do I understand how God speaks to him? Absolutely not. I do not believe in feelings, okay? And so this was a perfect example of how I'm like, you're crazy. Why did you do this? And he says to me, God told me. Do I understand how he told him? No. Will I ever? Probably not, because I'm uber logical above all, okay? I am going to say, though, just to give like context to the conversation, okay? He pursued for a long time. By a long time, I'll just give you numbers. We're all family here now, right? I've literally told you all my skeletons in my closet. We're family now. We've passed that point, okay? So Rami pursued me for, I want to say, like 9 months, okay? The way we met was we were in a service together. I was serving with his brother for like multiple months or whatever, and then like Tamer invited his brother, okay? So we served together for a long time, and he would like try to find ins, okay? So we used to serve like in a Eritrean church or whatever, and we'd like throw the kids like a big party, and I'd like bake cupcakes. And he'd be like, oh, maybe like we can bake together. Bake together? What's happening here? Like, what a bizarre comment. And I would just dismiss it and not answer it. Do you know what I mean? Or like, you know, I'd be like studying for something at school, and he's like a nerd, like saying, he's like, oh, like maybe I can come and like read organic chemistry with you. Why would you do that? This is very bizarre. And I would just dismiss it, okay? And then like, obviously I'm not getting the hint, so he was becoming more clear, okay? And I was crazy back then, just dismiss it. I would just like R-bomb him and not even answer, okay? And then at the end of his like pursuit, he got to a point where he was just like, okay, I'm gonna have a frank conversation with you, okay? Like, I think you're great. I think this could be something, like, I really think that this could be something great. I wanna take you out, like, I wanna have a real date, not like a pretend to bake, pretend to serve, pretend to whatever. I wanna do something real. This is the last time I'm gonna ask you because I'm feeling that you're not interested and I don't wanna hound you. If you say no, that's cool. And I won't bother you again and I won't ask you again. But I wanted to make sure that, like, I put all my cards on the table. Okay? Up until that point, I was just like, old creepy guy from Mississauga, like not about that life, okay? At that point, even though it was still a no from me, I had to stop and think about it, right? Because he did put all his cards on the table. And he was transparent. And other guys that I had dated before that, we can talk about that, okay, were not transparent like that. Didn't have the initiative like that. Didn't have the, like, confidence to do what Rami did. Like I said, I always say he's everything I didn't know I wanted. Don't get me wrong, it was still a no. He was still the creepy old guy from Mississauga, okay? But I had to think about it enough that I thought, you know what, maybe I better just mention this in passing to my father of confession. And in passing, with my father of confession, he sat me down and he was like, you're being arrogant. Okay, he just reamed me out. Okay, you're being arrogant. What do you know? You don't know anything. Like, deal breakers versus preferences, blah, blah, blah. And then he's like, listen, and again, uber conservative church, he's like, obedience above all, right? I'm like, yes, Abuna. And he's like, okay, I need you to be obedient to your father of confession right now. I want you to go out with him one time. And I'm just like, Abuna! Like, I'm like, it's 21-year-old, like, no! Like, death sentence, okay? And he's like, nah! I don't want to hear it. This is like after an hour and a half of fighting back and forth. Okay? He's like, I don't want to hear it. Okay? I want you to go out with him one time, and if you don't want to stick a fork in your eye when you're done, come back and talk to me. That's it. He's like, I'm not saying you have to go out with him multiple times. I'm not saying you have to like him. If you don't want to stick a fork in your eye, come back and talk to me. That's it. Don't commit to a second date. Nothing. Just come back and we'll talk again. And that's how it started. So, like, yes, he did pursue for a long period of time. Yes, Rami was 100% yoked to God, knitted to God, led by God. But he was also transparent. And he also did rise to the call. And when he did, it gave me enough pause that I had to seek wise counsel. Okay? That's the full story. Okay? Fair? Okay. Oh, another one. Okay. Is it true that you know when you know, or is that a myth? And how soon should we know? There's a lot of pressure to know quickly so you don't lead someone on. Can some people know when they know? Yes. Okay. So does anybody here know Abuna John Butros from Toronto? Okay, the bomb. Okay, he's the best. Okay, he's one of those guys that like just knew, I guess. Okay, if you hear his story, he's wild. Okay, he's another one of those guys that's like yoked to God, knitted to God, the whole feelings business that I'm never gonna understand. Okay, but he says that he knew blah blah blah. Okay, the logical side of me says highly unlikely. Okay, possible? Yes, I know it's possible because Abuna John said, and I trust Abuna John. Okay, but is it the commonality? I'm gonna offer that it's probably not. Okay, because really, what do you know after date 2? What do you know? You know nothing. You know what this person wants you to know. You know what this person wants you to see. You don't know anything about how they deal with conflict. You don't know anything about their service. You don't know anything about how they're knitted to God. You don't know anything about their perspectives on marriage and the path to marriage. You don't know anything. You know nothing. Okay? So 9 times out of 10, I'm going to say that you don't know. And I'm also going to offer that if you think you know early on, double check that you're not being led by your heart and that you're leaning very heavily on the sound mind. Okay? We often advise people, especially in the first parts of dating, you keep your heart under lock and key. Because if you don't, your heart overtakes your brain. Okay? And he's given you a heart, but he's also given you sound mind. Okay? And you can't pick and choose between them. Towards the end of dating, it becomes clear and they reconcile with each other, the heart and the mind. Okay? But at the beginning of a relationship, they could be at war with each other. So you can't sacrifice one for the other. Okay? So I'm going to offer that you don't just know when you meet somebody, and if there's a lot of pressure to know quickly so you don't lead someone on, do they really understand the assessment piece, right? You got to make sure that they are on the same page as you in terms of what dating is supposed to look like. And we're going to talk about that in the managing expectations talk, okay? How to kind of like get started on the same page, okay? What does your husband do for work? I can't tell you because there's one of his people in the crowd and he married a Canadian and I can't disrespect him, but too bad. He's a doctor and I really didn't want that because, again, I grew up in a very traditional, like, husband works, 9 to 5, comes home, dinner's ready on the table, and that was the way I thought it was supposed to be, and I didn't want somebody with rotating hours. I didn't want somebody with, like, this crazy schedule. Joke's on me, though, because my husband's schedule is actually more merciful than mine now, and he does 90% of the pickups and drop-offs for the kids, and I'm the liability. So God's making me eat my words, which he makes me do a lot of times. Okay. If one has the right person and right place, how can you deal with the wrong time part, as in how can you wait patiently, and what should you do while waiting? How do you know that you're supposed to wait, I guess is the question. So it sounds like this person is very convinced that this is the right person, okay, but the wrong time. So how do you know that what you're called to do is wait and not walk away? I would say that when you are very convinced of a specific outcome, you might want to take a step back and leave room for God to show you whether this is actually the outcome that you want or the outcome that he wants, right? Because usually when it's the outcome that he wants, he makes it clear and he overcomes obstacles. But when it's the outcome that you want, sometimes we get stuck on the finer tuned details. So I would question what makes you feel like the right thing for you to be doing that God is asking you to do is waiting, and be certain of that first. Not saying that it's not, but definitely worth a question. How do you stop wondering if someone who could match your preferences more could come around, and how do you get rid of that comparison? Okay, very good question. Like, how do you know, basically, is the question. And we get this one a lot, okay? So, number one, matching your preferences is not like the formula for the one, right? Because like we talked about, your preferences are nice to haves, not need to haves, right? Need to haves, yoke to the path of salvation. Need to haves, eye on the prize. Okay? Nice to have, goes to St. Paul's or whatever. Okay? So preferences, like I'm gonna caution you about that word. Okay? Let's say whatever, everything's good. How do you stop looking to see what's out there? Option paralysis, right? There is nothing that anybody could do right now, today, that could offer an alternative to the best husband I have. I'm number one. Sorry for all you guys, but I'm number one. There is nobody better than Rami. He's number one. Okay? There is nobody who is more yoked to God. He's number one. Okay? And there isn't even anybody who holds a candle. Okay? Does Rami have his quirks? Yeah. He has his quirks, okay? He's got like a really strong focus on laundry. Like, I don't know what the big deal is. We can totally give the kids their clothes out of a laundry basket. It doesn't have to be folded. That's his thing. Whatever, okay? Totally fine, okay? But knowing his quirks, knowing his flaws, knowing his shortcomings, okay? Appreciating all of that, do I know in my core that this is somebody who is yoked to God? This is somebody who is like, I want to be him when I grow up? Yes, absolutely, okay? And sometimes when we are still kind of checking out the situation out there, it's one of two outcomes. Number one, option paralysis, okay? And it might be a manifestation of a deeper concern around contentment, and that might be where you want to focus your spiritual life, right? Is how to attain that contentment, okay? And how to live a content life. And there's tons of series about that concept of contentment, okay? The other option that is common in that scenario is, are you sure this is the right person? If you're still dabbling outside and if you're in a healthy and fulfilling relationship, but you're looking at X, Y, and Z and thinking maybe that's better, is it a reflection that you're missing something on this side? Oh, who's the feminist in the room? Just kidding. Okay. Is it bad if the girl initiates the attraction or interest? Does that also play a factor into being controlling? All right. So this is going to come up with the algorithm, okay? And I can't wait for that one. What church is that in? I don't even know. I'm just along for the ride here, okay? So we're getting ahead of ourselves here, but, just in case folks are not coming to the other ones. Is there anything inherently wrong in the girl initiating? No. There's nothing inherently wrong, okay? But do you remember we talked about you cannot rob him of his opportunity to rise to the calling. You cannot. Because it does a disservice to him, okay? And that you've taken the opportunity, and it does a disservice to you and your assessment. Because if you do it for him, what are you assessing him based on? You're not giving him a chance. So is there something inherently wrong in a girl initiating? No, okay? But you have to be cautious about making sure that you're not setting a precedent for removing from him the opportunity to be what he was called to be and to rise to the design. And that you're not removing from him the opportunity to show you in your assessment who he is. Okay? And that can take many forms. Okay? It doesn't necessarily have to take asking on a day, that leadership or that strength of character can come through in many forms. But you have to be cautious about not setting a precedent that when he doesn't, you do. And if you wait too long, then you're just going to do it yourself, right? Because that doesn't serve anybody in the relationship. And it actually sets you up for a lifetime of not having your needs fulfilled. Because if every time he doesn't, you just do, he's never going to do. Because you always do it for him. And then you don't get your needs fulfilled. So it's actually not about who initiates, and it's more about letting each person be what they were called to be, and making sure that who you are called to be doesn't rob the other person of what they are called to be. Does that make sense? When does engagement fit into the dating timeline? Should it precede dating? What? When does engagement fit into the dating timeline? Should it precede dating? If not, then roughly how long should a dating period last at maximum, if any? So I'm going to be bold and say that engagement should not precede dating. That dating should precede engagement, because you get engaged on the basis of your assessment during dating. Yes? Okay? Fight me if you don't agree. I'm okay with that. Okay? Roughly how long should a dating period last? Okay. I'm going to park this question, not because I'm copping out, but because we actually talk about it in the expectations and boundaries conversation. I'm also going to disclaimer that this is like general, okay? Back in the day when I was dating, okay, we had like a golden rule of like how long you date until you know, okay? Maybe not as culturally appropriate or whatever as it is today. So I'm going to give you like a rough like ballpark, and then you guys extrapolate that onto whatever timeline is appropriate for your situation, because obviously like something like a long distance would be longer, or whatever your special circumstances are. So I'm going to park this concept of how long should a dating period be as an absolute concept, and we're going to revisit it in the managing expectations topic, okay? But with a grain of salt. Sorry, I'm trying not to react. I'm so sorry. I'm sorry, my game face needs some work. I'm gonna skip that one and do another one and then come back to it so I don't like roast the person that I just laughed at, okay? I'm gonna skip it because I'm gonna play it cool and you won't even know that that's the question that made me laugh, okay? That's what I'm doing. Skip it, and then I won't tell you when I'm coming back to it so I don't roast the person, okay? You can see it. Oh, you can see the questions? Oh! I thought, Marie! Okay. I just put my foot in my mouth. It's totally fine. Okay. All right, let's just do it. I'm sorry, friend. I didn't mean to laugh at you. I'm so sorry. I can apologize for my mistakes. I'm very sorry. Okay. I'd like my future wife to relax and worry only about the home while I provide everything else. In the day of boss girls, how can I bring up the topic? Okay, friend. Listen. Okay? Stop laughing. Guys, you're being insensitive. Okay. When we talk about deal breakers and preferences, okay, we talk about how preferences are nice to haves, but not necessary, okay? And deal breakers are if it never changes, you can't live with it, and it doesn't matter, okay? And we talk about how deal breakers are typically based on like ethics, morals, values, their core, right? Like baptism, deal breaker, loves Christ, deal breaker. Like, do you know what I mean? At the end of the day, even if your deal breaker is not widely agreed upon, okay, it doesn't matter if you still can't live with it, right? Like, I actually have two very bonkers deal breakers that nobody agrees with, and they're a reflection of my crazy, and I'm okay with that, because even though they're bonkers, and even though people feel like I can't justify them, I believe I can, but it's totally fine, okay? I can't live with it. So I don't need other people to agree with me, because it doesn't matter, because I can't live with it. If you can live with it, good for you. It's not your deal breaker, but it's mine because I can't live with it. So you have to figure out, friend, if this is a deal breaker for you. If this is a deal breaker, which means that you cannot live with it, okay, if the person that you marry does not do this, okay, that's your vibe. That's your thing, okay? And it doesn't really matter if people see your point or agree or don't agree, as if you have deemed it to be a deal breaker. I am going to remind you guys of a couple slides ago when we talked about questioning what you call a deal breaker and what you call a preference, okay? If this is a preference, don't label it as a non-negotiable. But if this is a deal breaker, it's a deal breaker, and people don't have to agree with that. And my suggestion is that you talk about deal breakers as early as possible. so you don't waste anybody's time. So when we get into the whole algorithm situation, there's a point in the like pre-dating period where we ask guys to rise to the calling, okay, and define their relationship, okay? Articulate and define that you guys are in a relationship and you're not just sliding into DMs, okay? At that point, we encourage people to have deal breaker conversations, because you don't want to define a relationship with somebody and like, you know, really like invest time into learning this person if they have deal breakers that are going to make you walk away anyway, right? So the earlier you talk about this, the better. So, friend, if this is a deal breaker for you, sure, talk about it as early as you can, because you don't want to waste somebody's time who doesn't feel like they can live with this. Okay, fair? Oh, they're going out of order. Okay. What is the balance to be struck between aiming high but not having an impossible standard? Okay, fair. So the balance is like, you know the ultimate goal, right? And you need somebody who strives for the ultimate goal. Everybody will fall short, okay? But it's like A for effort kind of vibe. If that person is not even trying, okay, and the ultimate goal is just on paper and it's not a reflection of their lives, I don't know if that's for you. But if this person is trying, okay, and they screw up sometimes and they make mistakes, but then they just try harder next time, that's what you're looking at. You're looking at progress. You're looking at effort. You're looking at motivation, okay? You're not necessarily looking at results, because results won't always come. But you are looking at, like, motivation and desire. That make sense? How much do you share when you when you start dating someone, I imagine? Should you share big things, possible deal breakers, or take it slow? Right when you define the relationship, like we are in an exclusive relationship, I generally recommend having a deal breaker conversation. Especially if you know you've got 2 or 3 deal breakers that are non-negotiable, you want to talk about those right away. So, okay, I'm getting ahead of myself here. The managing expectations talk, okay? Right when you define the relationship, we talk about deal breaker conversation and boundaries conversation right at the onset, okay? Because those are going to set the stage for the duration of your relationship, however long you decide it's going to be, okay? Deal breakers is going to determine whether you're going to continue, okay? Because neither person possesses the other person's deal breakers, and boundaries are going to set the playing field for the boundaries in which you're going to date, okay? So my recommendation is generally right when you define the relationship, you have this conversation. You don't want to waste anybody's time, and you don't want to let your heart out of the vault that it's in for somebody that you're going to end up walking away from anyways. Okay, someone's got to cut me off when we're going too long. Are we there? One more, okay. How do girls practice staying back and not immediately thinking the guy is incompetent, or allow the ball to get dropped repeatedly? He is incompetent. No, I'm kidding. Okay, so here's the thing, okay? If every time he drops the ball, you swoop in and you take over and you do it better, he will always drop the ball, because now that's what your relationship looks like, okay? But if he drops the ball, okay, you hang back, the ball stays dropped, okay, it's like 6 feet under, okay, and you talk about it, your expectation is that the next 2, 3, 4 times, the ball goes from 6 feet under to 4 feet under to 1 feet under to ground zero, to then, right? So, like I said, you're looking for progress. You're not necessarily looking for somebody who's finished the race, but you're looking for somebody who's trying, okay? I'll give you an example. So, have you guys ever done love languages? I'm sure you have, right? This is like common knowledge, okay? Common knowledge now. Man, when we started relationship goals, everybody's like, what? What are you talking about, okay? So, my love language is gifts. Give me gifts. I want gifts, okay? People say that's superficial. Whatever, read the book. It's not superficial, okay? Give me gifts. My husband's love language is quality time and physical touch, okay? That's his thing. I come from a family, my sister left so I can talk about our family, okay? I come from a family that's very like, we're very like stiff, okay? Like, we just leave room for the Holy Spirit, we have our personal boundaries, like, we don't want to do that. So, like, Rami will always laugh, like, his family is like the opposite, okay? First time I met his mom, she's like suction cup to my face, and like they're just like all over you, and like the hugging and the kissing, and I'm just like, I'm overwhelmed. I'm very overwhelmed. Please, everybody, I'm overwhelmed, okay? My family, like, it's like one of these, okay? Like, my husband always tells a story of the first time he ever like came out with me and my parents on like my birthday. So they're just like, oh, happy birthday, whatever they sang, whatever. And then me and my dad just did like one of these. Like, that's not us, okay? And like Rami's the exception to that rule, okay? But like, I'm just generally, like, I like my space. Like, I like my space. Like, when we booked the hotel for this trip, there was an option between like a 1 king bed or 2 double beds, and my sister's staying in my room with me, okay? And I'm just like, okay, listen, okay? If all they have left is 1 king bed, I'm gonna put a fort of pillows in between us, okay? She's like, you don't tell me, I don't touch you either. Like, you know, that's just, okay? And Rami's the opposite. Rami's like primary love language is physical touch, okay? So when we were dating, this was a huge struggle, okay? It was like date 4 or date 5, and this guy puts out his hand for me to hold. Like, no, I don't hold your hand. I don't even know you, bro. Like, that it's not for me, okay? Like, but to him, this is just like the natural like progression, okay? So when we were dating and when we learned each other, okay, his like, even though my efforts are not where his are at, him knowing where I am, it means more, okay? So like, I'm uncomfortable, but like, if I like hold his hand for a minute and drop it, that means more because he knows where it's coming from, right? And similarly for me, I'm like, gifts, give me gifts, I want more gifts, okay? He goes and gets me like something small, like, okay, there's room for improvement here, but like, it means more knowing where he's coming from. Do you know what I mean? And we have the same kind of conversation like when we talk about the temperaments, okay? So like in the temperaments, I'm sure you can tell, strongly extroverted, okay? I love people, okay? That's how I de-stress, is I need to be like around people and crowds and whatever, okay? My husband is the opposite, strongly introverted, okay? So it means more to me when he's tired or stressed for him to come out with me to a social event, even if he doesn't say anything. Okay? He's like, you know, counting the minutes until we leave, but he came. And somebody social like me, like in the beginnings of our relationship, like, well, you didn't say anything. Why aren't you talking to anybody? Like, blah, blah. But I understand who he is. And it's the efforts that matter rather than the actual, like, results. And similarly, right, for him, it's the effort towards, like, you know, in the beginnings, now we're good, hold his hand, no problem, okay? Like in the beginnings, okay, towards what he needs, not necessarily the results. So when you talk about like letting him drop the ball before you deem him to be incompetent, okay, like that's a good example also of like, you know, we gotta use our words to build up, not tear down, but no problem, we'll get there, we're all learning, okay? Like you're looking for efforts, you're looking for how hard he's trying, okay? If he's not trying to pick up the ball, that's a red flag. If he's trying, but not trying in the right way, that's, you talk about it. He learns. He's going to keep trying. And if he's trying, he's going to get it. Well, he's not going to get it 100%, but he's going to get closer, okay? So it's not about whether he gets it right every time. It's about, I'm not crying. Sorry. It's not about whether he gets it right every time. It's about whether he's trying to get it right? And whether you see progress and you see genuine effort and you see like genuinely in his heart, he's trying to put you above himself. Even if it's misguided, even if he's not trying the right way, like buying flowers instead of donuts, like he is trying. That's what you're assessing, especially at the beginnings of a relationship. Make sense? Okay, need to call it? Yeah? Okay, so does this stay open for the duration of the weekend? Okay, so keep like sending stuff in, and then like we often go back to them. Can we delete the ones that we've already? Okay. Okay, and if there's ever anything that's like a burning question, you guys can always like email me or stop me or whatever. Like I'm here for a while, so come and find me. And I don't promise to give you the right answer. I promise Marcie will give you the right answer.
Thank you so much, Sarah. That was amazing. I'm sure you all loved it. I loved it. So just as a reminder, tomorrow the liturgy is from 8 to 10 at the center. Then her talk is at 11. And then there's another talk at 3. I knew that. So 2 talks at the center tomorrow, and then there's one at St. Athanasius the following day. Anyway, thank you very much for all of you for coming, and I want to thank Sarah. I mean, again, just another round of applause. I think she was just like amazing. So much good advice, and the recordings of these talks I think will be up on YouTube at some point. They'll be up on the website. If you all could follow on Instagram, check the website, and we'll see you guys tomorrow. Thank you very much. Good night. Oh, there's food and stuff in the kitchen. So everybody go and mingle and eat. There's donuts and tons of stuff. Donuts, water, food, snacks. Everyone, please help yourself to snacks. We have a lot of snacks in the kitchen, a lot of food.